On this episode of Sustainable Horizons,
I don't want to take the responsibility completely off of the consumer and the user, but
demand definitely helps push and motivate upstream successes. This word sustainability throws a lot of weight on consumers and not really a ton on the producers of the world.
everything that you do, it feels like there's this constant barrage that when you're a person that you care about this stuff, it can be just exhausting.
Guess what?
What?
We're back!
So sweet.
And this episode, I'm so excited for it. Talking about hedonistic sustainability.
What does that mean?
I mean, I stumbled across this word, a month ago? Something like that. I texted it to you all excited, you know? But hedonistic sustainability is a term that was coined by an architect, Bjarke Ingels.
Bjarke Ingels.
Yeah. In the year 2011, this architect basically decided that he wanted to change the perspective of how people viewed sustainability. Oftentimes we view it as something that is limited growth, like you can't use more, you can't do more, you kind of have to pull back and be more conservative about things. He coined this term by trying to change the perspective of how people viewed sustainability. Currently, it's kind of viewed as something that limits growth, can only be achieved by sacrificing the present quality of life of people. So we're thinking about take shorter showers so that you can conserve water. I am a girl that loves a good long shower. It's, something that I sometimes sacrifice because I understand that water scarcity is going to be a thing in the future. So if we can kind of try to conserve it now, that's going to be something that's good.
Yeah, because a lot of the Go Green movement, sustainability and all that has been putting pressure on consumers and users to reduce your shower length, reduce how much you drive, wear and buy less clothing. Maybe not wear less clothing, although think about the food that you're eating, become a vegan. It's everything that you do, it's always feels like there's this constant barrage that when you're a person that you care about this stuff, it can be just exhausting to think about all the time.
Yeah.
And this hedonistic sustainability is trying to move away from that. And it's sustainability that improves the quality of life and human enjoyment.
We often talk about the needs of future generations and how we're stealing from them. And because we're of our overconsumption and all that kind of stuff. And I like how you phrase it that the word sustainability throws a lot of weight on consumers and not really a ton on the producers of the world. Basically, Ingels is trying to protest this perspective of sustainability and stresses the need of having sustainability designed rather than seeing it as a moral sacrifice.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. That sounds like the utopia of our generation, is this ability to design for sustainability and think of a circular economy and not put all this weight on the consumer to take shorter showers. How about we all install shower heads that just produce less water, but still give you the great effect of a nice long shower?
I hadn't heard this term until you told me about it. But when you told me about it, I was like, oh, this is how I've been approaching things anyways. Because what I've kind of realized, especially after learning about this, and when I was in high school, I cared a lot about this stuff. But then it wasn't until I went through college and, now work in this field that I was like, oh, what high school Logan, as in high school Logan is the person who cares about the environment, cares about all these things, but they don't actually know that much about it. What I realized after learning what I know now is that even when you're trying to make the right choice, you can often make just as bad, sometimes if not even worse of a choice. I don't want to say there's no hope in reaching those people because there's education and whatnot. But I think I came to this conclusion that people are going to buy things. People are going to do things. It's just kind of going to happen. And because of that, I have taken this mindset that it's not up to the consumer. It's up to businesses. It's up to governments. And it's up to sustainability professionals like you and I to work on everything upstream. Because actually, I want to get to that point in a second. Because I don't want to take the responsibility completely off of the consumer and the user.
For sure. demand definitely helps push and motivate upstream successes.
Yep. Because my one thing that I like to tell the average Joe is install this filter in your brain of just asking yourself, do I need this thing? Will this thing really improve my life?
Right.
If that thing's going to give you a lot of joy, I love coffee. Coffee's destroying the rainforest. Well, still love coffee. I'm going to drink coffee, whatever.
It's this guilt, like sustainability, and something I've really struggled with, I think, post college and kind of my end years of college was, it's like you said in the beginning, it's exhausting being the purist, like in your own life, right? Trying to live up to that ideal. There's so many things you have to sacrifice. And then the guilt you feel when you don't sacrifice the coffee because it's killing the rainforest, or you don't sacrifice long showers because that is my happy place at the end of a really long, hard few days of work. Like, I just need that to unwind and as a person feel better again. And I think this idea of hedonistic sustainability really starts to remove that guilt from the consumer. So not taking away the responsibility necessarily, but making it less guilty to choose some of these things because it's already designed to be sustainable.
Yep.
Right? Like all the new apartments now should have low flow, high pressure water. Because then it's like, okay, I don't feel guilty taking a shower anymore because I'm not throwing 60 gallons down the drain like nothing, and then for it to be processed and put back into like all that kind of stuff. If it's designed that way, then you don't have to sacrifice. There's no longer any guilt involved, but you can still be conscious and know in other areas where maybe it's not designed as well, you are willing to make those sacrifices because it's not everywhere in your life.
And I mean, to the point of it's not everywhere in your life, there's this term called embodied carbon, which states that carbon dioxide, so emissions from energy and whatnot, associated with the materials and construction processes of any good that you buy, any building that you live in, throughout its entire life cycle of a building or good. There's carbon built into that, whether or not you use it.
Think of timber in a home. The logs that are used and cut down into the 2x4s, that has a bunch of embodied carbon. And unless your home burns down, it's going to sit in your home and not be released into the atmosphere for forever. It's just sink,
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also, there was a lot of energy put into cutting that down, processing it, moving it. And it's like the same thing with water and waste. Like when you buy a phone, like there's a lot of energy and whatnot, materials that go into that material. But this is where it comes to sustainability professionals to work on reducing how much actually goes into that so that when it reaches you, the consumer, now all products have lower embodied carbon, because this is a common thing. I finished my LEED Green Associate certification. And one thing that the LEED certification talks a lot about is that what was like a LEED Platinum or LEED Gold building 10 years ago wouldn't even qualify for LEED certification today, because that sustainability benchmark is forever increasing, because our goal is to forever decrease the amount of these embodied materials and embodied energy and water.
Certifications like B Corp are one that I highly look for, because B Corp is, in my opinion, one of the better certifications that a company can get if they're trying to be sustainable. Because B Corp's goals or initiatives move regularly, and you have to maintain their strict level of sustainability to maintain your B Corp. And they are not above stripping you of your certification, and that you can no longer put it on packaging if you do not meet their standards. And their standards are in line with our goals set at like the Paris agreements. They're in line with moving companies at such a trajectory that we can meet some of these goals. And so that is something that is super important to look for, and kind of helps out with some of these conversations of how do we get the upstream involved with lowering their stuff.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like we've said, that's yours and my responsibility, not the average Joe. Like I said, I do still want to say, like, there are still decisions that you as a consumer can make, but it doesn't have to be this entirely guilt-inducing thing.
Yeah.
I think straws are like a common example of if a waiter brings you a drink and they're one of those restaurants that only gives straws on request. Do you need that straw? Probably not. But, if you have tooth sensitivity, like having ice smack your teeth is miserable, ask for a straw. You're fine. But it's also, sometimes it's not. Like sometimes you just don't need it. Or I'm a big distance runner. And right now it's kind of a marketing trend that you're supposed to have 4 different types of shoes that...
Depends on what you're running.
One's a trainer. One's a short speed workout day. One's for 10Ks and half marathons. And one's for marathon races. I drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. There is a point where you're like, all right, at the end of the day, they're just shoes. And I'm still...
The micro differences are not probably enough to really...
Yeah. So like what I ended up doing is I have a race shoe and I have a training shoe.
And that makes sense.
I'm now going down a shoe rabbit hole, but the race shoes have like carbon plates and all this fancy technology in them. And my like normal trainer shoe is just normal shoe with a piece of foam on the bottom. And they work out in different ways. But it's just like one of those exercises where it's like, did I even need to get the race shoe or have the training shoe? Also no, but at the same time, it's fun and I enjoy it. And it's cool to kind of use both types of technology and it gives its own benefits. But I don't need 4 pairs of shoes. And it's just kind of like checking that American consumerism with some sustainability, but also still having fun with your life.
Right. Like indulge a little bit, but like everything in moderation, right? I don't think it's unreasonable to have a race shoe and a training shoe. You don't want to wear down your race shoe.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? By training 5 or 6 days a week, and then all of a sudden it comes to it, you're just going to buy another shoe a lot faster. So splitting that up kind of makes sense, especially if one does have a different benefit and maybe is lighter weight. You can justify some of these things, but yeah, it's like going as far as having 4 shoes does not make sense. Not when 3 of them are for training. Like, is it really that different?
Also, a way to save money.
Yeah, it's financially great. When you're thinking about, is this a sustainable move? It's like, is this a financially smart move to have all this stuff? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I use the shoe example, but like I've been implementing that in my life of just, do I actually need this? And if part of me is like, not really, but I still want it, I still do it. I found that it does actually reduce my consumption by 20%. Do I really need another shirt? I have 4 shirts that kind of look like this.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a black shirt on in every episode. Like, do I really need another black shirt? No. And
right.
It just stops me from getting the next one. At the same time, if I'm like, oh, 2 of my 4 black shirts have holes in them. Well,
then it's probably time.
I'll just get another one.
Yeah. I use this rule of, especially when it comes to wants, because sometimes my brain goes a little crazy and I really want something. And so I have to really want it for months. I will starve myself. And there's kind of a little bit of the dopamine hit of like, oh, eventually I want to get, the anticipation is good too. And that's something I definitely wield myself is it just got a new camera.
Exciting.
I've been wanting this camera and researching it for so long. I'm going to the bottom of the Grand Canyon soon. And it's like this really nice, compact little thing. It's got gimbal on it, all this stuff, high end. And it's on the cheaper side. And the fact of I've been wanting a new camera for years, but it's an expensive purchase. And so it's like something that I'm like, I don't know if that's the time or the place to do it, knowing that I already have a camera that works just fine. And it's really not going to be a huge upgrade. There's going to be some perks to it, but like the one I have does amazing. So it has to be enough of a differentiator, like this little camera that I got is, to really justify now having 2 cameras that they don't do the same things. One's for photos and one's for videos. But yeah, it's the one for photos could do videos, just not at the level that this other one can. But months. I will wait months for some of those things because I'm like, if I still eagerly desire it, especially if it's a new like thing that comes out, like it's a new line of something, it's like, oh, cool, I want to get it. Because marketing makes you hype about it. It's like, okay, 3 months later, I'm still that hyped about it. It's like, okay, maybe that's something that's going to bring joy to my life and I can get myself out of this anticipation stage of things because, that's why, what's it called? Shopping therapy?
Retail therapy.
Retail therapy. There we go. That's that anticipation. That's all you're getting is that dopamine hit of the, I'm going to go get something new and the excitement of opening it up. That wears off in 3 days. I guarantee. That new shirt, the first time you wear it, amazing. The second time you wear it, it's just a new shirt, And so taking in some of those things is definitely, I think, a way to kind of lower the guilt too, where it's like, you're still getting it, but it's like you thought long and hard about it. And so like, this isn't just an impulse buy, and you don't have to feel guilty about it because clearly it's bringing something to your life and you don't have to sacrifice that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. To wrap it up is for the people who want to buy more sustainable products and whatnot, sometimes they are more sustainable, sometimes they're not. And in the end, just moderating how much you're actually buying is what will really be the benefit. But at the end of the day, like, I just want people to calm down about it and like de-stress. Life is short, enjoy it, and let sustainability professionals solve these problems. I also think it kind of helps spreading this word, kind of helps the anti-sustainability movement calm down a little bit, because this is the whole shaming and all that stuff is the reason they hate it. Limit what you're buying. Let people who really know what they're doing work with those companies to reduce what they're doing and all the embodied carbon and water and energy that's going into that product. Let them work on reducing that. If you are really passionate about this, get a career in it. Be part of the fight. Be part of the movement. Help solve these problems.
And know that where you spend your money produces the demand. So by choosing those more sustainable products and not going with just the cheapest one on the market, that sends a signal every time to that upper stream, basically, of like, oh, this is where they care to spend their money. This is where we're going to invest our time and energy.
Because I'll tell you, there's not one Fortune 500 CEO that isn't looking at sustainability. They know that this is a trend because there's enough people, especially with our generations, with Gen Z and millennials and now Gen Alpha, that's demanding more sustainable products, and they're actively making the choice to buy those ones. So this movement's happening, but you can also still enjoy your life while it is.
Exactly.
Cool. This was a fun episode. I'm glad that you found this topic because, like I said, this is something that I have always been passionate about, and I'm happy that there's a word for it.
I know. Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm glad exists, and I think it's just kind of this one guy talking about it. A good resource for those who dive deeper into this topic. Bjarke Ingels does have a TED Talk on hedonistic sustainability. This is where I gathered a lot of my information, as he is the origin creator of this word. This TED Talk's great. Definitely recommend everybody watching it. We'll leave that linked in the description below. But I think, bringing more awareness to it and kind of getting people behind this idea will just make our whole world a little bit better.
Beautiful place to end. Until next time.
Until next time.